What's up guys, Cash back again, and today I wanted to talk about something that's been thrown around a lot lately, and that's the idea of a possible sequel for Marvel's Avengers, and what that could possibly look like, and if that's actually the road they should choose. So let's jump into it. Funny enough, the first person I actually heard propose the idea of a sequel for Marvel's Avengers was one of the developers working on the game. He was speaking hypothetically, and at first I was somewhat intrigued by the idea, but then as I thought more about it, I wasn't as sure that would be the best route to go. Now when you think of a possible sequel for Marvel's Avengers, your mind is going to go to one of a couple options and questions, with one being, is this something players would actually want? By that I mean, while the game does have a loyal player base, the vast majority of gamers have roped the game off completely for multiple reasons that include bad marketing, bad word of mouth from other players and content creators, and because of the game's undeniable lack of direction in terms of knowing the type of game it wanted to be. So in order for them to greenlight a possible sequel, they would have to have the belief that they could turn public opinion of the game around in the future, and while that could happen, that's going to take a lot of work because the game's reputation has been damaged so much by now. Another question that comes to mind is, should they change the game engine? It's no secret that the game's current engine has both complicated development and also holds the game back in a lot of ways, and most players would welcome the idea of choosing to go with an engine better suited to do everything needed for a game like this, with the Unreal Engine being the favorite. But while I agree a better engine would be a great start for a sequel, they would also need to be familiar with the engine they choose to go with, or else you'll ultimately be back in the same situation we're in now. The game still has obvious problems, but the dev team has gotten a decent amount of experience with the current engine, and a sequel would be in development for the next few years at best, which opens the door to leave last gen consoles behind, which has been another big problem for the game as far as development. But let me know down in the comments which option you would prefer. A new engine like Unreal, or would you prefer they use their experience with the current engine to try and do better with the sequel? Another thing we have to think about is, what kind of game should the sequel be? This game tried to be too many things for too many different types of players, which ultimately left everyone feeling undeserved in the end, and I know they don't want that to be a problem with the sequel, so some things would need to change or be left behind. Should they go the full single player route like Spider-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy, or should they expand on the multiplayer aspects of the original? Should they drop the loot angle altogether? And if they choose to do another live service model, do they charge for the future DLC expansions? I think choosing to make a sequel seems like the right choice on paper because it essentially represents a chance to start fresh and rebrand a bit, but it also poses a lot more problems than I believe people are really aware of. We also have to recognize that choosing to make a sequel doesn't mean Crystal Dynamics would be the studio chosen to develop it, and depending on who the project is handed off to means we could run into similar problems down the road, because it's easy to blame everything on Crystal Dynamics, but realistically they had an uphill battle from the start and never really received proper credit for what they managed to pull off, because the game is fun to play despite so many of its problems, and they also never got the support and resources needed to stay ahead of the curve of player demand. The last thing I think they would have to really understand about making a sequel is that this is an Avengers game, so you have to think bigger. You have to expand the roster, you have to think bigger events, the world should feel alive, and it should actually feel as if your missions matter. So many players were disappointed to learn there wouldn't be a crossover of any kind with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think if they chose to go with a sequel, that should 100% be a planned event or expansion. A sequel should have everything this game needed right out of the gate, so join in progress and crossplay of some kind are a must, and if possible, expand the amount of players for certain missions. I still believe it's way too early to tell how things will go for the game this year, but I'm optimistic that they'll be able to get a few wins before the year is out, and hopefully that gives more certainty about the game's possible future beyond 2022. But you guys let me know what you think down below. Do you believe a sequel would be the solution for everything, or would you prefer to stick things out with the current game for another year or two? Make sure to drop a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to catch more Marvel's Avengers content every week. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next.